It was late autumn when Leah and her friends decided to visit the old cabin in the woods. The place had been abandoned for decades, and rumors about the cabin had spread like wildfire in their small town. Some said it was haunted, others claimed it was cursed. But Leah, a skeptic, saw it as nothing more than an adventure. The drive was long, the air growing colder with each passing mile. The cabin was tucked deep in the heart of a forest, surrounded by towering pine trees. Their branches twisted like gnarled fingers, creating an eerie canopy overhead. As they arrived, a thick fog rolled in, obscuring their view of anything beyond the cabin's porch. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with dust, the air musty and stale. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, and the smell of rot lingered in the corners. Leah's friends joked about the place being haunted, but she rolled her eyes. It was just an old, decaying house. That night, as they sat around the fireplace, the wind howled through the cracks in the walls, and the trees outside groaned as if in agony. They made s'mores and told ghost stories, laughing at the idea of anything supernatural. But when Leah went to bed, she was woken in the middle of the night by a soft, insistent whispering. She opened her eyes, heart pounding. At first, she thought it was the wind, but the whispering grew clearer, and it wasn't just one voice, it was many, all speaking at once, indistinct but filled with an unmistakable malice. She sat up, the cold sweat running down her back, and strained to listen. The voices were coming from the walls, the floor, the very air around her. Her breath quickened as they began to chant her name, over and over, in a low, guttural tone. Terrified, she reached for her phone to call for help, but it had no signal. She tried to scream, but her voice was swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Then, the whispers stopped. The silence was deafening. Leah's pulse raced. She could feel something moving around her, something just out of sight. Slowly, she turned her head to the window only to see the reflection of a figure standing behind her. It was tall, cloaked in shadows, its eyes to glowing pits of inky blackness. The figure reached out, a skeletal hand brushing her shoulder. Leah screamed, but no sound came out. Her friends found her the next morning, curled up in the corner of the room, eyes wide open, frozen in terror. She was never able to speak again. They left the cabin immediately, but the whispers followed them on the wind, in the trees, always just out of reach. And the cabin? It still waits, whispering in the dark.